Today's woman making a difference is Cleopatra Borel. Hello, Cleo.
Hi, Rockus.
You don't mind if I call you Cleo, right?
Not at all.
Fantastic. So let's go all the way back from the beginning. I want to go back to Mayaro.
Okay.
What inspired you to even think about wanting to become an athlete?
I think that being an athlete was just what I was supposed to do. The fact that I had years as a professional athlete and an Olympian is just icing on the cake. But even from a very young age, I remember being mesmerized by sport, mesmerized by playing, being involved, being outside. I was never in the classroom sort of person. I wanted to be outside, I wanted to be active. So, I mean, I'm talking from younger than 9 years old. I can remember clearly always wanting to be an athlete.
To be outside in any particular sport, or you just wanted to do everything?
At the time, I wanted to try everything.
Right.
I wanted to be involved, but at a very young age, I was interested in the shot put. I became interested in the shot put. And I think that's because my dad was an athlete at QRC, and he always had like shot puts, and he had his javelin, his discus, and of course, well, stuff for football. Yeah. So it was just always around me. My parents were very much involved in sport. My dad managed Mayaro United football team, and we would travel everywhere with the team. Yeah. So it's just always been a part of my family life.
Okay, so when you were in Mayaro, you started playing around with the shot put?
I had to wait because at that time, you had to be, I think, in Form 1 when you could really start, or in like, what do they call it? Standard 6.
Standard 6?
Yeah.
That's after you finish
post-primary, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So I couldn't compete in the shot put as a primary school person, so as a primary school girl. Yeah. And I was like just on the sideline waiting for my turn. And then my sister took up the event, and my dad was teaching her how to do it. So I just couldn't wait for my chance. Yeah. And as soon as I had the opportunity, I tried to get involved. But being from Mayaro, that was really difficult.
Why?
Because there really wasn't an organized club like in Toco. And in Port of Spain and in other areas in Trinidad and Tobago. And to this day, there really isn't a club that has the full gambit of track and field events offered. Right. And the shot put, especially for women, is like really one of the obscure events. So although I tried to do it, I would have to go to Garcara Park for someone to help me after school, and then travel to Mayaro.
Make the trek back to Mayaro.
Right. Get stuck in Rio Claro, and now it's like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and my parents are driving to Rio Claro to pick me up. So, you know, you try that once or twice on your parents, and then they're like, this ain't working. So I would compete in school sports. Right. I never made a CRIFTA team because I never knew the process
of getting into it.
Of how to qualify, etc. So my career as an athlete really didn't take off until I migrated to the US for school. Because the only time I would compete would be for school sports, you know, and that was the best time for me. You know, I was at St. Stephen's, so then we would go to Pleasantville to compete, and then we come to Port of Spain, you know, so for zonals and nationals. And that was it. So
when you went away to college, drop that as school time, serious school time.
Well, I took the SATs and I had a break. So I started going to the gym.
And training a little bit.
Yeah, because I came out of secondary school really heavy. So I was like, maybe some lifestyle changes here. Yeah. So I started going to the gym. That was it really. So once I transitioned to university, I continued going to the gym.
Okay. So you left Trinidad purposely to go to school, or you migrated and then went to school?
I went to become a physical therapist.
So you went to school?
Yes, to school.
Right.
Not on an athletic scholarship, not to be nobody athlete. I went to study. Right. And what happened is someone stole my money for housing.
Well, yeah, just now, wait, I go get to that. We
Okay.
get down to that. But I want
Okay.
to know before that, when you got to school, right? You went to school in Maryland.
Yes.
Yeah? How was that shift from Mayaro to Maryland? Like, how was that
Right.
culture difference? And
So, growing up in Mayaro, my parents were very strict.
right.
And people would be like, oh, this be home. Or like, people would barely see us outside, my sisters and I. My parents were strict. Really, the only things we could do is we could do a little sporting activity, a lot of studying, school, like serious business. So the year before I went to school, I dedicated all of my time following Ecstatic across the country.
Oh, wow.
And I know, right? And because my parents, well, now I'm like 18,
Right.
and my parents know that I'm leaving, they give me a certain amount of freedom.
Right. To see what mistakes you'd make.
No, I think it's just because they knew I was gonna miss 4 carnivals in a row. I
Right,
wouldn't be
right.
able to come home frequently.
Okay.
They just say, yeah, sure, go Wassa Fed, Poison Fed, you know,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
Fed. So I was like, yeah, when I get to the States, I'm really gonna take this to another level.
Yeah.
But when I got there, I just realized how serious things were, how much of an investment my family had made. So
Because university is not cheap.
it's not cheap. Like well, fortunately, I had an academic scholarship,
Right.
but still my parents had to pay for housing and food and, you know, flying to the US, all of that stuff. And knowing that I had younger siblings, you know, I felt like this is my one and only chance.
Right.
So I just got like really serious. I really buckled in and studied, and I became some sort of a bookworm that I didn't really recognize. And I was just trying to do my best to make sure that,
You didn't waste the opportunity.
yeah.
You went to school in Maryland.
Yes.
Yeah. How was that shift from Mayaro to Maryland? Like, how was that
Right.
culture difference? And
So a long time ago, there was a show on TV called A Different World. And to me, I felt like, here I am in a different world. Like, this is awesome. And I would just really recognize the members of the track and field team.
Right.
And I would always think to myself, I could have been good at that. Like, it's too bad that my
That you had to drop it,
circumstances,
yeah.
didn't permit. Never did any research. I was just like, oh, okay, well, let me just go to the gym and
do your work.
do my work.
Right.
And,
And then
yeah.
one day you learned of you were paying your housing,
Right,
right? Paying your rent.
right,
And you learned that the person you were paying the money to was stealing the money
right,
and not actually giving it to the landlord.
right.
How did you react when you found that information out?
Coming from Mayaro, I just couldn't, at that time especially, I could not imagine that level of dishonesty.
Right.
Like every day, I'd get home and I would go to the leasing office and be like, he paid, right? And they'd be like, no. And then they started using scare tactics
Right.
on us. It wasn't just me, it was like a number of Trinis. They're like,
So wait, this person was in Trinidad?
yeah,
So your parents would pay this person in Trinidad to pay your fees, to pay your...
not even would pay. They paid
Right.
for like the entire semester.
Right.
So it wasn't even like he took 1 month's rent and that was it. It was like a lot, like for an extended period of time.
From
and
a
it was,
bunch of people?
Yeah, it was like I had a roommate and then there were 3 guys downstairs.
Wow.
So it was 5 of us. But then there were people in other states at other schools.
That he was doing the same thing?
Yeah, this was a different time. Like cell phones and communication wasn't what it is today.
Yeah.
So you could get away with a scam like that. Because at that time, and even perhaps now, you can't just leave Trinidad and go to the US and rent an apartment. Like you need to have certain things in place.
Yeah.
So he was sort of like that bridge for us,
Okay.
for a bunch of us. And I don't know what happened to this day. I still see some of the people.
You ever met that guy after that?
No.
You ever heard anything about him?
No, luckily for him, no. No one has ever seen him.
For real?
Yeah.
You all know his name?
Yeah.
I feel like we could You can do a little Google search and find him.
But there was I went through all the stages with him, like
Right.
depression, anxiety, anger, all of that. And I look back on it and I realized that if I wasn't placed in that situation, I wouldn't be who I am today. So
you got that situation happened. You realized that, all right, these people are going to try their scare tactics and whatever, because as far as they're concerned, you're not paying.
The thing about scare tactics is that when people using them on you, you don't know they're scare tactics. You're just scared. Right? And I knew that my parents had given there wasn't anything else.
Yeah.
So I would go into the office and they'd be like, yeah, you'll come home and one day the doors will be locked, we'll change the locks and all your belongings will be outside, and people from the neighborhood, they go through your stuff and they take what they want. And I was just like, my primary concern is like, this is Maryland in October and I'm freezing, right? It's not even cold yet, but I am freezing. So I'm like, I can't be outside in this cold weather.
And this is your first semester up there?
This is my first semester.
Wow.
But like things progress, you know, like for example, he didn't pay for the heat. So then the electric company turned off the heat, the gas company, they turned off the heat, and I'm like, I opened my oven to stay warm in the apartment. Although it's not that cold, like now I would never, but at that time I'm like, oh my God, it's freezing.
Of course, they're coming from tropical Mayaro.
Yeah. So it was just something that, like, a situation that was progressively building into something that was really each and every day more and more difficult. And we were all looking for a way to survive. So one of my roommates, I considered the guys downstairs to be my roommates as well. Right. One of them joined the ROTC, and he was sort of getting assistance in that way. Another guy was Muslim, and his brothers took him in and they were helping him. And one of the other guys downstairs, he joined the track team. And my roommate, she left. She left. She
just dropped out of school and that was it?
Yeah. But I was like, well, Cleo, what can you do? And I'm like, well, I don't think I'm ROTC Army material. So I asked my roommates about joining the track team. He told me where the coach's office was, and he was like, just go and ask. And I was like, I don't know. So I went to the gym and I just sat there thinking and thinking, and finally I was like, listen, it's go time. Like, you have to do something. Because I had my tuition covered, but I needed a place
to stay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went to the coach?
Yeah.
And you tell him I want to be on the track team, and that was it?
Yeah.
You just take you? So
I got my courage up. I had to get, you know, if I were going to do that again, I'd probably take a shot, but I didn't. Right. I got all my courage up, and I, even though I had like no technical ability, in my mind, I was really very athletic. Right. So I walked in there very courageous, very bold. And I think because I was nervous, I was just trying to like play things up. And I said, you know, coach, I want to be on the track team. I want to walk on the team. And he said, well, what do you do? And I said, shot put. And he asked about my results. And
like how far you throw?
Yeah.
What you tell him?
I inflated my results, and the man still laughed. Like, he almost fell out of his chair. He couldn't believe, like, this ego and this performance was like going together. Right. But I didn't care. I was like, so I could do it or what? At the time, I didn't realize that there's a law in the US, in the education system, as Title IX. And you have to have equal number of male and female athletes. Okay. So he needed female athletes. Right. And here's a female athlete. She's a student.
And she wanted to do it?
He really didn't have anything to lose. Right. So I got the chance.
And I see you did not waste that chance. Because from there, it took you into an amazing career of shot put.
Yeah.
I saw you did a TED Talk.
I did.
And you were giving, you know, your champion guide.
Yeah.
And the first thing that you said was to immerse yourself.
That's what I did. Once, later on in my career, I realized that a lot of girls would come and ask for the opportunity to be on the track team, and they would get the chance. And then they'd practice with me for a couple of days or a week or so, and then I wouldn't see them again. But once I had that opportunity, because it took so long for me to get the chance, because it's something I wanted since childhood.
Yeah.
Once I had that chance, I was like 100% committed. So I do my academic work because
You have to.
I was on an academic scholarship.
Right.
And I would give all of my free time
To shot put.
to learning and trying to develop and trying to become a shot putter. I mean, I've been shot putting for so long that my coach, when he wanted me to see what a shot putter looks like, we had like these big carts, and they would have that TV with the big back.
Yeah, right.
And he like wheeled it into the gym one day and plugged it in and put a VHS tape in.
Yeah.
And he showed me, he's like, yeah, this is what you're trying to do. And I was like, oh God. So I completely immersed in what I was doing once I got the chance.
Okay. And then, so the commitment is a big part of it, right? So you have to be committed to what it is you're going to do. And the next point that you made was to have great mentors.
Right.
I want to find out specifically, when it comes to you as a female shot putter, did you have female shot putting mentors?
So, as a collegiate student, in the beginning, no. It was just sort of my coach and I.
Right.
And that's why he showed me a videotape of shot putters and what they looked like and what the style was. But it was like all massive European women. And I never really saw myself in them.
Right.
But that's what I had.
Right. Because that's who was doing it before you.
That's who was doing it. They were, and he was showing me videos of like past Olympic Games, stuff like that. And then, fortunately, I was at a HBCU, a historically black college and university. Yeah. And so when I started to travel as a member of the team, I had the opportunity then to see other black women doing this event. And I was like, oh, okay, this is how we do it. Right. I was like, I could be better than them, you know. So I would just like try and work really hard because I knew what my potential was. And it was, for me, really frustrating to not live up to my potential. Like to go to a track meet and lose because I don't have the
you're not prepared enough.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. And in your career since then and since all of your success, have you mentored other women in shot putting?
I hope they believe that. Right now, there are 2 young ladies from Toko actually in university in the US. And I've worked directly with them in terms of, I'm not like, I'm your mentor, sit at my feet and listen, but I try to show them, this is what you do, this is how we do it. One of the young ladies, when she was selecting a senior college from her junior college, Portia's, she would, you know, we'd message each other and we would talk, yeah, this is a good choice, do this, look for this in a coach.
So that's mentorship. That is mentorship. So then, yeah, you've been doing it.
Yeah.
So how important do you think is that transfer of information from before you to you to after you?
I think it's really important because coming up, I felt like I was inventing the wheel. Right. And that's really frustrating. Imagine if you could just have the wheel and just go. Build the car to go with it. Yeah, like just, even if you just taking the wheel and just, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was really frustrating. And I felt like if I had better support and guidance, perhaps I could have done better, but I did the best that I could in my circumstance. And I don't want future athletes, both male and female, in track and field, any sport in this country, to have to reinvent the wheel or to invent, you know what I mean? I believe that it is important for future current athletes to learn from, you know, athletes like myself who've had a
the experience.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the experience. I want to talk
Okay.
about the experience of going to the Olympic Games. Like how, that's a mind trip. Like how do you even wrap your mind around that?
And listen, my first Olympic Games, we competed in ancient Olympia. So I'm walking through these ruins in Greece.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how is this even possible that you have pulled off this scam, you know, and convinced these people that you belong here?
Yeah.
And listen, my first Olympic Games, we competed in ancient Olympia. So I'm walking through these ruins in Greece.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how is this even possible that you have pulled off this scam, you know, and convinced these people that you belong here?
Yeah.
You started at 18, or like I've
When
always
most
been an
people
old shot putter.
starting-
Yeah.
They're starting at like 14 and things.
Probably even younger. Now we have girls younger than that. But you know, it was just like, how are you here? How did you pull this off? And it was just, you know, the highlight of my life. Just going to the Olympic Games, representing your country, it's nothing else like it for an athlete, for me, no. Maybe going to the World Cup, but, you know.
Okay, so at games like this, do you think that the expectations are different for female athletes as to what people expect of male athletes?
Expectations, no. I think trainees want to win.
Full stop.
And we don't care where that medal is coming from. We want to win. The problem is sometimes the support that our female athletes get is not equal. I remember being a professional shot putter. Like, I'm on the international track and field circuit. I'm sponsored by Nike. Like, I am living my best professional shot putting life.
Does your walk?
And I remember a team coach saying to me, well, you know, these boys are professionals and you're not, and like comparing. When in the scope of professional track and field, at that moment, I was actually a professional and they were like university students.
Wow.
And I was going to him to solve a problem. And he was not taking me seriously. And I believe it's because I was a female athlete and he didn't see much value in my contribution. I hadn't competed as yet.
Yeah.
But in his mind, my concern wasn't
valid.
No.
And does that happen often in that field?
I think that the sensitivity to female athletes is not where it needs to be. Hopefully it's better now, but it's still not, it's not where it needs to be. The female athlete is different from a male athlete. So when one female athlete overhears a coach saying, so and so fat, or this and that, like, that could turn into a whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think our female athletes, we just want the opportunity and the support to do what we can. It's the same commitment, it's the same sacrifice that we make. So
I guess the example you gave there was very, very specific. And I know that, I mean, as a man, I've learned throughout the years that there's certain things you don't comment on in particular ways, especially with women. Their weight is definitely one of those things. But in terms of equality of the treatment, do you think that things like that should be taken into consideration all the time, like in terms of the way you would speak to a man and the way you would speak to a woman? I mean, generally in life is very different. Is it the same for athletes?
I think we should treat all of our athletes with respect.
Yes.
Because even I know of male athletes who travel with scales because they want to maintain a certain weight.
Right.
We have to learn how to treat our athletes well. And not see our athletes like, oh gosh, you want something again? Oh gosh, like, understand.
They need things.
when I came out from a system where by the time I graduated university, I was a national champion. And I had become accustomed to being treated in a particular way. And so now, and I'm not talking about no green M&Ms, please.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, like, I become accustomed to
professionalism and respect.
Professionalism, having the things that I need to perform, taken care of in a manner that supports the best performance possible. So, for example, flying on the shortest trip possible. You understand?
I do, because in the entertainment world, which I am more immersed in than the sport world, it's fairly similar, right? And you have people who would book you for a gig, but they take the cheapest flight rather than the shortest flight.
To save $5.
Yes. And I understand, but that would play on your psyche because your body will also be going through jet lag. You wouldn't be able to perform at your best.
There's an impact.
Of course.
There's an impact to that. And I think that's all our athletes want. And I think that communication can help with that. But the first national team that I made, I was told to meet the team in Miami. I was in Baltimore. I'm like, oh, wait, you want me to walk? And I mean, like, I'm a college student. I don't have 2 cents to rub together. Yeah. So that first team, they did not pay for me to get to Miami. And I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna just stay here and work this job.
Do you think that the sporting industry, the sporting companies that organize these things, do you think that they get the proper funding that they need and they squander it, or is it that they don't have enough?
I can't speak on that.
Okay. Because
I'm not in their books, I'm not in their accounting. I think that sometimes we need to, if someone has done something that gives them a certain privilege, then just give that person what they've earned.
Right.
Meaning, don't take me as an individual and try to assess me. Cleo this, Cleo that. No. Cleo have the standard for this meet. She from Trinidad and Tobago.
She fits the criteria.
Yeah. Don't be like, oh, Cleo want to go on vacation. Like, that was another thing that I would hear early on the team. Oh, these shot putters and throwers come here for vacation. Someone said I came for honeymoon, and I was like, excuse me?
But weren't you competing?
Of course. But that's the kind of that's the kind of stuff, the kind of foolishness people would say at that time.
How do we fix that?
I think with education, also bringing back and having a place for athletes such as myself who've been there, who have that experience. The generation of athletes who have kind of carried the flag until this point and now they're retired or semi-retired. We have to incorporate them back into our organizations. And sometimes the organizations take a sort of protective stance against
the board.
Those individuals.
It seems to be across the board that people hold on to posts and they don't want to let them go.
Right. But there's then a brain drain that happens.
Because then everybody leaves the country, everybody migrates, and they go and offer their services elsewhere.
Or we just have people like my colleague Candice Scott. Candice came out of, like, at that time, the best throwing program in the US. Candice knows how to lift, weight train as an athlete. She knows how to focus as an athlete. She knows, you understand? Yeah. And we're not utilizing those people. We don't, I don't know, we don't see the value in that.
I guess not. I mean, but you yourself, do you see yourself being a coach or a trainer or anything of that nature to be able to pass on that information besides the mentorship?
So I'm a PE teacher, like, by qualification.
Right.
I have a master's degree in physical education. And I don't see myself working in that capacity as like a PE teacher, but I've always seen myself as a coach. Being a coach in Trinidad and Tobago is not really a career. So, like as LeBron said back in the day, I'm taking my talents, not necessarily to South Beach, but I'm going to take my talents to where it's going to flourish.
And valued,
yeah.
and will flourish.
And maybe then Trinidad would, you know.
Why we like that? Like, why we just wait until...
Because I think we don't realize how much we can accomplish with what we have. We always think, oh God, I don't have this, I don't have that. No. I've trained in Cuba for like many years. And while they had a lot of resources in the past, now it's really a lot about the human capital
yeah.
and being innovative. But you have to take a chance on people. You have to provide a structure, a system for people to flourish. And there is no system in Trinidad.
We have to create it because it doesn't exist.
I've already created ones for Trinidad and Tobago.
You're not doing it again?
Like, it's not that I can't afford to do it again.
Yeah.
Like, I have to, being an athlete has taken a penalty on the athlete financially, personally. It's a lot that we give up to represent. Being an athlete has taken a penalty on the athlete financially, personally. It's a lot that we give up to represent.
And I kind of want to get into some of that, if you don't mind.
No problem.
In terms of being a female athlete, being an athlete and having a personal life, you were married.
I was.
How did that work for you being an athlete, a female athlete representing the country, and having a marriage?
It was hard. It was tough because my ex-husband, he worked a regular job.
Right.
You know, so...
A 9 to 5, as they say.
Sort of. He worked in pharmaceutical sales.
Okay.
So it wasn't a 9 to 5.
Right.
But he put on a suit and he went to work every day. And he'd be like, oh, meet me for lunch. And my crazy behind, I would show up with chalk on my neck and my sweats. And to me, I'm like, yeah, you know me from college. You know who I am.
You in his work clothes, you in your work clothes.
Yeah.
Right.
But, you know, after I realized that perhaps he felt as if he was maturing into another phase of life, and I was stuck in athlete. Like, I was still the same person he knew in college.
Right.
You know,
even though this was your career? Even
though that was my career. So while he enjoyed, and I'm not bad talking him, man, he's a very nice man. I would not marry him.
Well, clearly.
He was very lovely. But even though he enjoyed, like, traveling with me, going to the Olympics.
Oh, the honeymoon. That was the honeymoon you was talking about?
No, I had a proper honeymoon. Thank you very much. Even though he enjoyed those things, he himself had to make sacrifices.
Right.
Like, he was every Christmas, let's go on this cruise. And every Christmas he'd be like, yo, it's indoor season. You know that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or he would just want to do
normal couple of things.
Yeah, or even like on a Saturday, he would plan something nice and romantic, and I would be like, I'm so tired, like. Because
you've been training.
I'd been training all week, and I just want to, you know, I don't want to be at this wine festival, and I'm at the wine festival, and I'm like, I have training tomorrow.
And I can't even drink the wine and enjoy it because I'm training so hard.
Yeah, so there is a huge sacrifice for female athletes, I think, maybe more so. I think, I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be a male athlete, so I can't comment on that. Well, of course not.
But I mean, in terms of, I know women produce children. I assume that at some point that conversation would have had to happen in your marriage.
Yeah, he wanted kids. And I was like, I want an Olympic gold medal. And it was a real source of, I would say that's the straw that broke the back of Yeah. That was it, the disagreement. And he felt like he was waiting and waiting, and it wasn't happening.
Did you'll set a time limit, or to say, well, all right, you'll get this amount of years as an athlete, and then...
He did. But, you know, I was like, yo, I'm in top form.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now, I think that I could have probably done things differently. Like I didn't bend, I didn't waver.
But I think that's a part of why you were able to succeed as well.
It's a part of who I am. It's just who I am. And I couldn't do it for him, unfortunately. I couldn't.
So the third point in your champion vision is to be your authentic self. That, I mean, what we've been talking about sounds like you completely immerse yourself in being you.
Yeah.
How difficult was that?
It wasn't difficult for me.
No?
Because some people might call it selfish. Some people might say it's just being clear. I've always been clear on who I am, what I want. And it's, for me, it's always like, listen, you could get on this train or you could stay in the train station, but the train leaving.
Right.
And it's sad to say, but I considered other things, other options. But I was always like, that is not for me. That's just who I am. Like very clear. And if you don't like it, I completely understand.
Yeah.
But I am me.
But even in your athletic career, being authentically you was a journey that you had to go through, because you spoke earlier of seeing the
tall white girls,
white ladies doing the shot put, and you come in now smaller than them, but wanting to still partake in this.
Yeah, I felt like, listen, what I don't have in height, like I never knew I was short.
Right. Well, Gail, if I tell you the truth, I didn't know you were short until today, you know.
Oh, but I am not short. But like I never knew I was short until a coach said to me, you know you're short for a shot putter, right? And then I looked at the, they would we line up. You line up the competitors. And one day I looked at the lineup and I was like, I am short.
Yeah.
But I never, in my mind, I always felt as if I have what it takes and I deserve to be here.
I mean, there's no question about that.
Yeah.
And you proved that to the world.
Yeah, so when it came to being my authentic self, I'm not gonna say I went from collegiate shot putting to world class throwing and I was like, yeah. No, it was difficult because even in my collegiate career, there were more black girls, but not a lot of us.
Yeah.
Now it's like really expanded, but black girls were sprinting, they were jumping.
Yeah.
It just wasn't what we did at the time. So, like after college, it was a real kind of like weird space to be in. And I looked up to the Cubans because they were black and I was like, okay, not that you can't learn from someone of another race, but it's just like they were the most like me. They were from the Caribbean. They were, you know, black. They understood. They had big muscles. They understood.
I mean, I understand the importance of seeing yourself and seeing people like you. It really makes a big difference, and I think
it does.
I think that's what this whole thing is meant to show.
Yeah.
Young ladies watching this, you, and hearing your story, being inspired by your story. I think a big part of it is to make sure that we can continue having more Cleos come out of Trinidad and Tobago.
I think so. I think it's about seeing yourself in another person. And I think that now the issues surrounding female athletes, they're a little different from when I was coming up.
Right.
A lot of times when I go to schools and stuff, female athletes, I think they feel pressured about questions around their sexuality, etc. And when the athlete who's doing the most manly sport, when I turn up and I'm like, listen, you could do this very masculine sport, which I didn't know that until Kwame Lawrence let me know. You could do this masculine sport and still be a lady. You could just be who you want to be.
Yeah.
And just being able to have permission to be yourself is important.
I want to thank you very much for coming and sharing with us today.
Yes.
I think that your champion vision is one that I personally was moved by the first time I heard about it.
Yay.
And I think I'm going to take it and run with it. I'm just going to put it in life.
It guarantees success.
Clearly. Thank you very much, Cleo.
My pleasure.
And of course, I want to say thank you very much to the Auditorium Restaurant and Bar for having us here today. And here's our boss.